Thank you very much, and very good afternoon to each one of you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, Secretariat Director, team at the UN-GGIM Secretariat, Member States, observer members and supporting organizations, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks on behalf of a group of private sector companies around the world who have got together to propose a private sector network to the UN-GGIM. And I today represent all those companies and industry associations who have come together to put forward this proposal under your approval. I would also like to take this opportunity to compliment and appreciate as well as recognize and acknowledge the leadership of UN-GGIM team, member states, and several stakeholders who have been working for the last 5-7 years to build this very, very important community of professionals and experts dealing with geospatial information, and especially in applying geospatial technologies for development agenda. Having been involved in my individual capacity as well as my organizational capacity in this whole process for the last 6 years, I can imagine and appreciate the hard work done by the team. Especially the ECOSOC resolution, which was adopted last Wednesday, is a great milestone, and the Undersecretary General in the morning emphasized about that, which is a significant contribution as well as commitment of the United Nations to promote and facilitate usage of geospatial information in several development objectives, and especially in the light of Sustainable Development Goals. Moving forward, I would like to take this opportunity to place a few things on record, that the value and utility of geospatial industry or geospatial information in society and the world economy has been expanding exponentially and is finding relevance in almost every human endeavor. It is not just an enabler of our day-to-day activity, but is a driver for innovation, development, and excellence in and across countries, bringing disruption to business models, but ultimately creating social and economic value to such an extent that it aggregates an economy and society around itself. Agenda of my discussion today would be a bit of overview of private sector, purpose and vision of private sector network, structure and terms of reference, and points for discussion. The background of this meeting has been that, as you all know, that ECOSOC resolution, in making its decision, encouraged the committee of experts to hold regular high-level multi-stakeholder discussions, including private sector. And the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development called for promotion and transparent and accountable scaling up of appropriate public-private partnership and collaboration to exploit the contribution to be made by a wide range of data, including Earth observation and geospatial information, with ensuring national ownership in supporting the tackling progress. UN-GGIM has been very, right from its inception, has been engaging private sector companies, and many of us in this room today have been participating in this exercise right from 2011, 2012. In May 2016, an informal meeting was called in Rotterdam on the sites of Geospatial World Forum to discuss how to develop a more direct engagement and dialogue between the UN-GGIM and private sector, and a task force and task group was formed to develop terms of reference. In June 2016, a second meeting of the task group of the private sector representatives was held as part of the Open Geospatial Consortium technical meeting to develop and agree on preliminary terms of reference. Well, why private sector? Because private sector brings a lot of opportunities to all of us, and I, along on behalf of the private sector, would like to convey that we believe that we are an important stakeholder of the overall process of development as a group. So private sector brings almost 500 billion geospatial industry at the moment. And it all depends on how do you define this industry. We all have been, most of us have been using Airbnb apartments or Uber or several such services which are totally dependent on the geospatial information and the technologies. So it is a lot of consumer applications which is there. So how it is happening, let me share with you is on the one side you talk about fundamental economic indicators, which is transport, energy, housing, agriculture. The geospatial information and the private sector driven solutions are helping those fundamental economic industries to improve their productivity, improve their efficiency, improve their safety and monitoring capabilities. At the same time, the geospatial information is also helping the local governance, disaster management, and several social endeavors. And that put together is contributing to the national economies. There have been several studies which have been undertaken in the recent 2-3 years by Government of Canada or Ireland, UK, Norway. And most of these studies, or Australia to start with as well, most of these studies have been kind of depicting the contribution of geospatial information in those respective economies from the tune of 1 to 3%. And that's a significant contribution to the national economies by using geospatial information. At the same time, a larger commercial segment is also emerging. And so this is how, from businesses and from infrastructure and from governance side, the geospatial information is contributing towards national economies. But how is that happening is because the whole industry is moving towards being a solution-centric geospatial industry, which means service-oriented geospatial industry. And it is integrating into various economic indicators. And that is possible because there is a very significant convergence of systems and integration of geospatial with those systems and implementation of geospatial information through the various processes, and which is creating new business models. And those new business models are creating much, much larger opportunities, and we as a community are playing a very key role into that. Well, these collaborative business models are basically working on integrated data collecting sensor networks. We have been talking about several kinds of data, but there is a clear direction that all that data has to come from various kinds of sensors, and they are getting integrated from space to subsurface. So from remote sensing to aerial to UAVs to ground to below the ground. All the data is getting integrated into one system, and that is allowing sharing of economic infrastructure and assets and providing cloud-based geospatial platform, which is helping larger processing systems and delivering of the information through the apps. So you see that from the collection to delivery of information through the apps, this all around technology processes, and that is converging systems and tools to deliver integrated information. And this information goes down to the level of citizens, and they can make use of the geospatial information for undertaking their professional, individual, as well as official responsibilities. Furthermore, there is a greater need for public and institutional participation in the whole process. As private sector brings a lot of value, so as private sector gets a lot of value back from the public institutions and public sectors. And we are looking at possibilities where, or those possibilities are already on. Several initiatives are going on where sharing of information infrastructure, which means that the government and the private sectors are sharing those informations and creating much more integrated information systems. Commercialization and industrialization of capacities and innovation is a very important thing where there is a growing recognition around the world that the potential has to be harnessed through the commercialization of innovation as well as capacities so that we can scale it up to much larger level, which is based on ground realities and ground applications. And institutional strengthening and startup incubation. A lot of innovation happens in very small places, And when you talk of sustainable development goals, you are going to address certain challenges which the society is facing on the ground level, and the innovation can be not only from top down but from the bottom up. And that kind of institutional strengthening and startup incubation leading to the industrialization of the geospatial information would actually help much larger communities. And all that would require a conducive policy framework. And that's where I would say that the commercialization of innovation and socialization of policies is something which is on the agenda, and this is what we would like to promote. Well, the vision of the private sector network is an active private sector network of representatives working in a mutually beneficial collaboration with members of UN-GGIM to play a leading role in setting the agenda for the development of global geospatial information and to promote its use to address key challenges, enable citizen services, and support the initiatives of the United Nations, particularly the Global Development Agenda. So this is the vision of the private sector network which we want to put forward. And the purpose will be to facilitate a direct connection and communication for the private sector to work with the member states towards achieving success in global geospatial initiatives, create opportunities to assist UN-GGIM in developing policies, processes, practices, and capacities, and recommendations for geospatial information infrastructure at national, regional, and global levels. In some of the discussions in the last 2 days, I have observed that there has been initiatives by the members who are saying that the GGIM should go to the national level as well, which means that the national government should be encouraged to take these practices and coordinate with several stakeholders of the spatial data agencies at the national level as well. Facilitate an ongoing dialogue for collaboration between and amongst the members of UN-GGIM and participants of the private sector network to develop, build, and extend the world's capacity to benefit from geospatial information, enabling countries to build capacities in geospatial information, technologies, and services. And we have been talking about capacity development everywhere, and so as in the private sector can help a lot in extending those capacities. The structure of the private sector network is that it will be an informally structured network guided by the terms of reference. Following endorsement of the UN-GGIM, it will be recognized as an official observer, will report annually to the Committee of Experts as a thematic group on the global geospatial information management. The private sector network members shall meet to determine a practical structure and appoint representatives to the necessary roles to ensure communication and development of a work plan in accordance and collaboration with the UN-GGIM Secretariat. Participation in the private sector network will be free and open globally to all private sector organizations and related associations, and will enable such entities to contribute to and expand the global policy capabilities to develop tools, services to enable geospatial information to be mainstreamed within and across countries. UN-GGIM private sector network founding members are Oracle, OGC, ESRI, Geospatial Media, CRCSI, AGI, Digital Globe, USGIF, AAM, Data World, Hexagon, Harris, Google, Geotech Vision, EARSC, and these organizations are combination of private sector companies as well as industry organizations. So put together, like OGC represents about 400 or 500 companies. AGI represents about 70 companies. ERC represents about another 100 companies. So this is just not those 20 organizations, but there are certain organizations which are the representatives of hundreds of organizations as well. Our inaugural meeting is proposed to be held tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. in the conference room 5. And now I would like to place this proposal on record for discussions to the UN-GGIM group of experts. Thank you very much.